All right, Georgia added another quarterback to its roster within the last few days in the transfer from UNLV, Jaden Maiava, a kid from Hawaii, right? Has only played in 2023. I believe he was a redshirt freshman over at UNLV this past year. Won Freshman of the Year in that conference. Threw for 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Right? What does this mean for Gunnar Stockton, though? Georgia's assumed QB2 heading into 2024. He was the QB2 in the Orange Bowl, obviously, with Brock Vandegrift leaving the program for Kentucky. His transfer out, he was the QB2 this past year. Gunnar Stockton worked mostly as the QB3 in 2023. But now, Jay Maiava's coming over. He obviously has more playing experience than Gunnar Stockton at the collegiate level when we talk about him being a starting quarterback for a D1 program this past year, right, in UNLV. Is this just a depth piece? Is this, hey, this guy could be our QB too? Maybe, if something happens to Carson Beck, maybe Maiava's the guy we throw out there because he's a little bit more battle tested. Is this just a depth piece, right? A few weeks back, Kirby Smart was talking about roster construction. This was at the signing day press conference on December 20th. I was there. He said, look, we want 4 quarterbacks. We want 4 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. That's what they had the year prior in 2022 when you talk about Stetson, Carson Beck, Brock Vandegrift, and Gunnar Stockton, right? So they had that before. They had what they wanted before in 4 scholarship quarterbacks, and that's a big reason for why they brought in this kid. Now, is he going to beat out Gunnar Stockton for the QB2? I am fumbling today, right? Hopefully these guys aren't fumbling too much in 2024. Will he beat out Gunnar Stockton for the backup quarterback position behind Carson Beck? I think it's a good question. Here's what I'll say. We know that Kirby and staff, they want to grow people from the ground up. Gunnar Stockton obviously is an example of that. A kid that an early enrollee to 2 years ago. Think about it like that. Time is flying, guys. He's got 2 years under his belt in the program. He's got a redshirt year under his belt. He got some snaps in some games this past year. Gunnar did. UTM, Ball State, UAB, and obviously more extended time against Florida State in the Orange Bowl. Huge, in my opinion, for developing a backup quarterback, for developing depth. I mean, the Orange Bowl, obviously, there were a lot of negatives to what happened in this Orange Bowl. For Georgia, there were a ton of positives, and one of those is young guys getting out there, getting real game reps against other flesh, another team, right? In a huge environment like that in the Orange Bowl. It was a mostly filled out crowd, and there were definitely a fair share of Florida State fans. That's not my point. You want those guys to get those reps, and Gunnar Stockton, that was huge for him. But this Maiava guy, he's got a whole year of being a starting quarterback pretty much. He's got wins under his belt. I mean, he led them to, as the guy, he led them to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins this year. A couple losses, right? Lost their bowl game to Kansas. He threw 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. That 17-10 touchdown to INT ratio. You look at that, you wonder, is that going to be is that a problem during this program? I think that's something that they would weed out, the interceptions, right? Not a lot of interceptions thrown in the last 2 years for Georgia when you think about between Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck. They've been pretty clean with the football. Gunnar Stockton has an interception under his belt as well in his one attempt at Ball State, right? It was a pass that looked really pretty coming off of his hands in that game. And then, you can argue that the receiver should have made a better play on the ball in that play. I believe it was Anthony Evans back. Guys, we're talking about back on September 9th. I believe it was Anthony Evans, a guy that Gunnar actually connected with in the end zone in the Orange Bowl in Miami. But Gunner's a homegrown guy. He's a Georgia kid. He's a Mike Bobo guy, right? That was huge, them getting him from South Carolina. When Mike Bobo switched over to Georgia, now he's obviously the offensive coordinator. So there is a relationship established there, and there's obviously culture established there with Gunnar Stockton. So is Maiava a true threat for this QB2 job? And is that a bad thing? Ryan Curley from Dawg Post here talking about Georgia's quarterbacks, right? Off season. We still got things to talk about. Hey, real quick, make sure you're checking out our newsletter. I'm linking that down below. Dawgpost.com's newsletter, right? Not everything we could do is on here. we've got written stuff too for you. And sometimes we got more over there. So make sure you're checking that out. I'm linking that in the description down below. A 5-star Georgia fan has signed up for the Dawg Post newsletter. I'm dissecting a few of these Maiava games, right? His best game was probably at New Mexico, right? A 56-14 win. New Mexico, not a great football program, but 13 for 18, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. Those are the types of games you look at as really positive ones. But there were other games. Look, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks against Air Force. No touchdowns, 2 picks against Boise State. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks in a loss, and a 1 touchdown loss against Fresno State. I'm not, right, this is not here to sit and analyze Jaden Maiava, but he didn't exactly just ball out at UNLV. So right, Georgia's not bringing in a guy that just had some incredible year. Winning freshman of the year in a conference is a big deal. 3,000 yards, 8 wins, right? Because I don't believe he started at the beginning of the year when one of those wins happened. Just by looking at these numbers, I don't think he started. I've been trying to do a little bit of a dive on Maiava. But Gunnar Stockton's the presumed QB2, and obviously we're not talking about Carson Beck here. One of the reasons why Maiava came over was because I really hope I'm pronouncing it. I did research on this. I watched clips. I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And if it's been 6 minutes of me pronouncing it wrong and I'm actually saying it really wrong, someone correct me. Gunnar Stockton. I think there were some good things and some bad things in the Orange Bowl. And that's obviously our biggest sample size at the collegiate level. You can't base everything off of high school. You want to base things off high school. Both these guys are 4-star guys. Do stars matter? Do they even matter at Georgia? I don't think they do. I think we're proven over and over again that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you do. If you can get developed at Georgia and play hard in practice, you're going to find your way on the field, Lad McConkey. You're going to find your way on the field, Stetson Bennett. You're going to find your way on the field, Javon Bullard. That's my point. So about these guys being ranked in high school, it's not a big deal. It's more about who's in the program. Gunnar Stockton's been in this thing for a couple of years now. He is a Bobo guy. And I think they liked what they saw out of him in the Orange Bowl. I liked what I saw. What I noticed the most was the positive that I noticed the most. They want Gunnar to run the football, right? That is a big part of Gunnar Stockton's game. He is dangerous on the ground. He can lower the shoulder. I think there's more of that to his game than Jaden Maiava's and what I've studied so far. So I think that with Gunnar, there is that more of a run element, and it's something that Georgia likes, right? Kirby Smart admitted that after the Orange Bowl in that press conference, that long press conference that ended with that emotional hammer where Kirby's like, everybody needs to watch this. Well, earlier in that press conference, he was talking about Gunnar Stockton and the running element that he brought to Georgia's offense, how important that is to them. They had that with Stetson Bennett, design runs that went for touchdowns, right? Stetson Bennett's running 60-yard touchdowns against Auburn. They want to have that element of the offense with Gunnar Stockton. You don't have that with Carson Beck. They know he's the best guy. He obviously is right now. He's the starting quarterback. And I think that you can win a national championship with Carson Beck. I think you should have this year when we're talking about it like that. Can you win one with Gunnar Stockton? Can you win one with Jaden Maiava? They're going to learn those things. Haven't mentioned Ryan Puglisi at this point in time just because he is he'll be a true freshman. And under these circumstances, I just think we are very, very far from seeing Ryan Puglisi out there on the field, right? I don't think that I'm reaching too far in that assumption. But with Gunnar, they do want to be able to run. And I believe he has more of that element than this guy from UNLV does. So I lean Gunnar Stockton as far as who's going to win this QB2 job because, look, don't kid yourselves. Even if Kirby came out tomorrow and said, look, Gunnar's our QB2, they will compete at practice. And they're going to find out what this new guy is made of. So be on the lookout as this spring goes on, what Jaden Maiava's role is on this team. Is it just as a scout guy? Was it really just a depth piece, right? They obviously proved time and time again how much depth matters. You don't think depth mattered? It mattered in 2021 when Georgia had an insane defense and was holding people to 0 points over and over again. It mattered at the beginning of this season when Georgia didn't have a super healthy running back rotation. Right, so that's a big reason why they went out there and they got another quarterback they wanted to add to the roster. But is he a real threat for Gunnar Stockton's job at QB2? That's my question today. My answer, I don't really think so, but we'll have to see during the spring. I think Gunnar Stockton will end up being the QB2, but let's see how this thing goes. And look, you can always transfer out over the summer, right? I doubt that that's something that would happen. happen with Gunner, but always got to monitor these situations. It's a new age of college football. It's different nowadays. Thanks for watching this video.